Paranormal Insights. And we have with us today Robert Perala. Now, Robert is the author of two wonderful books, The Divine Blueprint and The Divine Architect. He's been involved in the UFO field for many years, and he's also a UFO abductee.
And Robert has so much experience in the field that he has been asked to MC this year's UFO conference that is happening in San Jose, California, November 9th and 10th. Welcome, Robert.
Thanks, guys.
Tell us a little bit more about your panel with the conference.
Well, UFOs are certainly a hot topic amongst so many people all over the world. There's sort of an awakening that's going on right now, and the conference is largely an introspective look at how we relate to UFOs, how we believe, how we perceive them, and what's generally happening with people that experience people that have claimed that they've had contact with extraterrestrials. The panel itself is an extraordinary panel of the best researchers in the business that sort of showcase the myths and misconceptions about what this science represents to us. It's a sensitive subject. For some, they will look at this conference and go, wow, this is a place I can tell my story and these people will believe me, and they'll come out from all over the place to do this. And for others, they will sit quietly and learn extraordinary things about how we're connected to the universe, not just in a physical way, but in a metaphysical way and on the spiritual plane.
Now, this conference is kind of cool because really you get a chance to actually talk with the speakers, you get to meet with them, you get to see them firsthand. It's not like they're way out there 100 feet away from you up on a stage. They're right there in the flesh and giving you a chance to ask them yourself real questions about this topic.
Yeah, they are. We have guys like Bob Evans who's coming out this year, a really extraordinary researcher who's claimed that people are coming from another reality before they're born here. The Bible, the Sanskrit and the Gita have mentioned the word Nibiru. You are descendants of the house of Nibiru and the house of Pleiades. And when you look at some of what the writers and the prophets were saying in this aspect, we find that that we're connected to the universe in ways we've really never even thought possible. And people will sit there literally riveted at what's being said here because they will get some kind of information that sparks their experience or just will remind them of their origin in some way. You know, there's a big study of the origin of the soul in this process also. So people always want to know not so much where they only go when they die, but where were they standing before they were born. And not only that, they will also find, just that extraterrestrials are a large part of our reality and always really have been. It's just what we don't know about them leaves us to believe, well, it's still a myth. It's actually not so much. We know much more now than we ever did.
Now, you said earlier that there are a lot of myths out there. What would you say is the most predominant myth out there that you'd like to just bust once and for all?
You know, one of the big myths is, that Area 51 has always been mentioned in folklore about UFOs, being a part of Area 51. And actually, that myth actually is true. There's myths that are not true and myths that hold real reality. And Area 51 really is a bona fide extraterrestrial experience. Most of what was there in the late 40s and 50s and then right on into the 80s and 90s and up to now has been moved away from there. It's just generally an Air Force base now. But for the most part, its myth of being real or not real turns out to be real.
Absolutely. And more people have been coming forward now to talk about their experiences with UFOs, including things like the Minister of Defense for Canada, Paul Hillier, just went on record saying that they have absolutely been not only working with extraterrestrials, but that they have been keeping the records of UFOs for some time now. Now, Paul Hillier said in front of everybody on record in video that his government, the Canadian government, has been talking with 4 different species of aliens. Now, that is mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's almost like, the mind doesn't have room for that, right? So it turns out that the government has a responsibility. They have a society and a culture to protect, and they're going to do a very good job of that. Planet Earth has a tremendous amount of problems, folks. We all know that. It has a fantastic amount of it, whether it's economic, or whether it's healthcare, or it's the debt, or whether it's personal issues or international domestic policy. It has so much there. It doesn't really have room in some ways for a fringe subject like extraterrestrials. So they held a mock trial in Washington, D.C. That would actually showcase disclosure. What does that look like? So Paul Hellyer came out and literally said, yes, this has been a reality. We've had contact with 4 separate races. And I think that that's absolutely true. I think he's very legitimate. And I think the world held its breath when he said that, for sure.
Fantastic. Now, you go all over the world talking about your experiences and your knowledge with UFOs. You're an abductee, and you actually have a show debuting in London next month.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I was asked to be by David Icke, who's the internationally acclaimed author, very controversial, very exciting guy for sure. Asked me to be a U.S. commentator for the People's Voice in London. And when I got the email, I just about fell over it, you know, because he said, and you will have a global audience, mate. Maybe he believed that I had something to say and that I'd done my homework and the research and I had some credibility here, and also contact with wonderful people in the business that are experiencers on the metaphysical, science, spiritual community and personal growth community. So yeah, we're off and running in London here, hopefully coming real soon now.
Now when people hear all this, they're going to be very interested in how can they get more information, how can they see the videos, the pictures that thousands of people have been taking on their cell phones and cameras this last year in San Jose. So tell us one more time for everyone watching, the UFO conference, UFO Con 2013, how can they find it?
They can find us at ufocon2013.com, and that show will be at the Cypress Senior Center right there in San Jose, November 9th and 10th. You don't want to miss this. It'll be fantastic.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, guys.